This takes all the things that I love about the bigger Multistrada and puts it in what I think is a more sensible, more practical, more affordable, lighter weight package, but it still is exhilarating and fun and just amazing to ride in all conditions. Hello everyone and welcome to Big Rock Moto. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I am outside beautiful Valencia here in Spain, far from home, and I am doing a test ride all day today of the brand new Ducati Multistrada V2, and in particular this S trim level with the electronic suspension. So we're going to have a good review for you today. We're riding the amazing countryside roads all around Valencia, Spain, and I'm on one of my favorite motorcycles. Any Multistrada is always amazing. V2, V4, Rally, S models, they're always incredible. So we'll talk through the specs and features of the bike. We'll do some really good riding. We'll cover some pros and cons. We'll talk about the competition. We'll try to cover everything you need to know about the brand new, all new Multistrada V2 for 2025.
All right, let's briefly go over the different Multistrada models because there have really been a lot and it can be a little bit confusing when we're talking about the different models. So the Multistrada overall has been a tremendous success for Ducati, and they've sold over 100,000 Multistradas since it was released over 20 years ago. The first Multistrada, and Multistrada meaning multi-roads, it came out in 2003 and it was really ahead of its time. It had sport bike DNA, but in an upright, comfortable package you could ride all day long. It had an 1100cc air-cooled engine and it made just 84 horsepower. In 2010, Ducati dropped a bomb on the motorcycling world and introduced a new 1200cc Multistrada, making a huge 150 horsepower and featuring electronic ride modes, which was considered very revolutionary at the time. In 2015, Ducati made some updates. They put a new engine in the bike and it bumped up the power to 160 horsepower. In 2017, Ducati released a baby Multistrada, the 950, which made 113 horsepower from a smaller engine. In 2018, Ducati released the 1260 Multistrada, an updated engine with longer stroke for more power and torque. Also, between 2016 and 2019, Ducati produced the Multistrada 1200 Enduro, which was designed to go off-road. Then, in 2020, Ducati finally released the Multistrada V4 with 170 horsepower. The new Gran Turismo V4 engine extended the service intervals and did away with the Desmo valve train. And it was really quite a revolution for the Multistrada lineup. Then in 2022, Ducati released a new Multistrada V2. It was based on the V4 platform, using that chassis and that overall platform, but used their smaller 937cc engine. Now, finally, that brings us to 2025. Ducati have released this bike, the subject of today's review, the new Multistrada V2, and this is based on their brand new 890cc engine. All right, a huge shout out to La Tigers for sponsoring today's video. If you've been in a motorcycle accident, I highly recommend contacting La Tigers' nationwide network of motorcycle lawyers, because the sad, unfortunate truth is insurance companies are going to want to settle for the bare minimum possible amount. Hiring La Tigers can potentially get you covered for everything from lost wages at work to pain and suffering, even to customizations and upgrades you may have done to your motorcycle. Plus, the great thing is there is no upfront cost to hiring La Tigers. So if you have been the victim of a motorcycle accident, or if you know somebody who has, please contact La Tigers and their information will be below. Thanks again to La Tigers for sponsoring today's video. All right, let's cover the specs of the new 2025 Multistrada V2. So the bike comes in two versions. It comes in the base model and the S version. The only real difference being that the S model has Ducati's fully electronic skyhook suspension. The base model has still fully adjustable but manually adjustable suspension. In terms of pricing, in the USA, pricing is set at $15,995 for the base model and $19,295 for the S model. You can also get green, and that is $400 more. Yes?
Can I be with you?
Now, as optional extras, you can get panniers, either metal or plastic. You can also get heated grips and a center stand. These things are not included in the prices I just quoted, but they are available as optional extras. What do you think about that?
Crazy.
Crazy. The weight of the bike is 440 pounds or 199 kilograms before fuel, and if you fill up that 5-gallon or 19-liter fuel tank, that means your wet weight fully fueled up is around 470 pounds or 213 kilograms. The engine is an all-new 890cc 90-degree V-twin making 115 horsepower and 68 foot-pounds or 92 newton-meters of torque, with 70% of that available at just 3,000 RPM. Now, this new engine is Ducati's lightest ever twin cylinder, saving a lot of weight versus the other engines, and it does away with the Desmo valve train, which means less expensive maintenance going forward. Speaking of maintenance, the intervals for maintenance are 9,000 miles or 15,000 kilometers for basic service and 18,000 miles or 30,000 kilometers for major service, including your valve check. Transmission is a 6-speed with a slipper clutch and Ducati's Quick Shift 2.0, which I can report works very, very well. Wheels are 19-inch in the front, 17-inch in the back, cast aluminum. However, you can get spoke wheels as an extra cost option. Seat height is 32.7 inches or 830 millimeters with a standard seat in the low position. The seat is adjustable upwards about 20 millimeters from that, and then you also have low and high seats available. You can also get a factory low suspension if you get the S version. So shorter riders are really well covered here with these options.
All right, let's do a little walk around, and I apologize, the lighting is a little bit not perfect, and then the sound, there's very windy today, so I apologize for any of that. Starting with the lighting elements, you can see these signature kind of Ducati running light elements here. Of course, you have high and low beam, all LED. Looking at the lighting in the back, so all the turn indicators are LEDs, and then you've got the tail light here. So, you know, pretty basic there in the lighting. Let me go turn that off. Starting at the front, 19-inch. You've got cast aluminum wheels. Spoked wheels are an option. So with a slightly bigger diameter, this is also slightly narrower than you would get on like a 17-inch wheel on a bike like this. So makes it a little bit more agile. We'll talk about that. Inverted fork. We have fully electronic suspension on this S model. Brembo brakes with monoblock calipers. Very, very nice. You've got this, I don't know if this is an accessory, but kind of some, I think it is, but Ducati performance part, some radiator protection there. Turn signals are integrated nicely here. Into the fairing, you've got kind of the distinctive Multistrada beak. You have some wind deflectors. You have an adjustable windshield, which is very effective, and it's very easy to use one-handed while you're riding. I really appreciate that. You have this vent to kind of reduce the back pressure and reduce your buffeting. Mirrors are very nice. All the fit and finish and everything is what you expect, you know, from Ducati. Let's walk around the bike and then I'll come back here in a second to the controls. You can see around the side of the gas tank, it's actually a plastic cover over the gas tank. The bike's available in red and in green. Brake lever, foot pegs. You know, it's not set up for off-road. This is really a road bike with some very, very light off-road capability, and it's designed with that in mind. The passenger pegs bolt on to the frame here, and the exhaust comes off of that. Swing arms, very, very nice design. 17-inch rear wheel. All the bikes we're testing have the cast aluminum wheels. We're in Europe, so of course we have a different, much larger number plate or license plate than what I'm used to back in the United States. Very nice, slim exhaust. It also has a nice sound to it. Grab handles. The seat is spacious and comfortable. Really appreciate that. There's also low and high seats available. Coming around this side, you can see the shock has an interesting mounting here. It's almost horizontal, and this being electronic suspension, you never have to use any adjustments because it's all through the electronics. And kickstand, very easy to use. You can see the motor, some of the wires and cabling here. Fuel tank here, which releases with the key. It doesn't have the keyless sort of fuel tank, which some people will like, some people won't. And then looking at the controls, you've got the joystick controller, all your cruise control, riding mode, suspension mode here, stop start. Everything is very high quality and very, very nice. Alright, my first impressions, we've been riding for about 20 minutes, just getting my feelings of the bike, playing with the modes, playing with the suspension, playing with the windshield. I think Ducati may have a hit here, because the thing I like about this V2 Multistrada is, yes, it has less power than the V4. You're 115 horsepower versus 170 horsepower on the V4, but to me, as amazing as that V4 is, I would go for this one. And I'm kind of giving the end of the review at the beginning, which I normally don't like to do, but this bike is so well balanced, so agile, so flickable. It has a feeling of lightness and agility that the V4 just doesn't quite have. Like around town and at a stop, this bike feels really, really lightweight. Some other things I'm noticing, the suspension modes, you really feel a big difference with this electronic suspension on this S model between the different suspension modes. The ride modes work really well. I like how you can change all that while you're riding, which is very, very, very nice. And typical with Ducati, you know, you have excellent brakes, you know, nice clutch, hydraulic clutch. I mean, everything is very at a premium level. The bike feels like it's ready for anything. It's super comfortable. Of course, I need to check in at the end of the day to see how that is. The wind protection is very good for a bike in this class. Very, very good, actually. I've got the windshield up. You can see there, now it's down. There it's up. Very, very good wind coverage. A little bit of wind noise, but no buffeting whatsoever. Of course, I am wearing a street helmet, not an adventure helmet, so keep that in mind. The vibration level is pretty non-existent, very smooth running, you know, 90-degree V-twin, kind of typical that you get with Ducati. And it feels, because the bike is light, it's about 470 pounds fully fueled up. That's pretty lightweight for a bike in this class. At 115 horsepower, it makes it feel like more than that.
The last photo, and I was like, fuck, man.
How you doing, Dustin?
Good. Taking notes.
Yeah.
Lots of notes to take already.
Let's copy Dustin's notes. Let's see, what did he say here?
Here's a sneak peek.
I'm just going to copy your review. What are you thinking, Ryan?
Well, we just got to the first photo stop, so not much riding yet, but it's pretty smooth. Easy to ride, so.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the KTM setup like that? Joystick setup.
Do you like it?
It's fun.
It is fun.
It's just such a nice combination of engine and chassis weight. It's pretty nice.
I agree.
I'd rather ride this than a lot of sport bikes. That's
Yes,
for sure.
I know. All right, we'll take a look at the electronics on here a little bit. The TFT is a little bit on the small side compared to like the bigger Multistrada or some of the bikes. But again, at this price point, they have to kind of look at their equipment levels and keep the pricing where they want it to be. I like how the electronics work. You've got some different dashboard displays. You've got this four-way controller. If you hold to the right, you can go into a couple different display modes here. So DTC is traction control, DWC is wheelie control, EBC is engine brake, and then your ABS mode. You can change all these settings. The ride modes have preset levels, but then you can change them. You can change everything as you're riding, and I really, really like that. If I hold it again, I'll get over here to this screen, and it's kind of cool because then you get a different tachometer. You get a lot more info on the screen, or you can go back to this mode, which is how they delivered the bikes to us. If you scroll up and down, you can go through your info here, your average speed, your trip computers, your odometer, the range, consumption. I'm showing 5.1 liters per 100 kilometer right now on this, but we're, press rides, we tend to ride very aggressively on the throttle. You get air temperature down here is 12 degrees Celsius, so, pretty cool weather, and I haven't noticed any real heat from the engine. I've tried to make it feel hot idling a lot, and I don't really feel that. And if that's the case, although this is a pretty cool weather test, if that is the case, that's a big improvement over the V4. That's the only thing I don't like about the V4 is the engine heat. And then the suspension modes, if you hit the suspension button, which is kind of up here, you'll hit that with your right index finger there. And then you can go through comfort, dynamic, and low grip. And then you can also change, if you go to the right, you can change the ride height. So you can do different preload levels for rider, rider passenger, rider baggage, rider passenger and baggage, or auto leveling. I put it in auto. And it also has a minimum preload feature. If you hold this down, it'll drop the bike a little bit, I think somewhere around 10 millimeters when you're at a stop. But you have to put it back into that mode, I think, every time you go ride. So I don't love that implementation. And I also feel it doesn't drop as much as some of the other bikes do that have that feature. It's about $3,500 upgrade to get the S model with electronic suspension. Is it worth it? I think it depends if you're changing your loads a lot, riding with the passenger and then not riding with passenger, different luggage. If you want that press of a button kind of convenience, then it's probably worth that money, but that is a big chunk of change to get that upgrade. We've got the flash to pass over here. We've got the cruise control right here, on, off, and then pretty easy rocker switch up and down. Riding mode button, which works well. The joystick, hazard lights, horn, the lamp button here, which is, I guess, for extra lights or running lights or something. That's kind of a European thing. This could be a tiny bit different on US bikes. And yeah, adjustable levers. I wish heated grips were standard. I think some of us are kind of saying, you know, at this price point, but that's a European bike thing. You tend to have to pay extra for options. So that's kind of their pricing structure. You boy! Now we're gonna get some steam going here. So as we are blasting through the Spanish countryside, it's kind of a good time to talk about the engine. They gave us a lot of technical reasons in the press briefing why this engine was better. They improved, you know, the low and mid-range torque and the response, and, you know, most of the torque is available at 3,000 RPM, and all that is true. I can confirm that. But they also said that, hey, this is still a Ducati engine. Like, it's going to have that nice power at the top end, and it certainly does. Like, when you let this thing rev out, you feel very good power on the top end. The motor is just willing. It's a pleasure to rev it all the way out. It doesn't vibrate or feel rough or anything. It's really a pleasure to use. I'm very impressed with this new engine. I think Ducati's done a great job with it. I think if you're looking at the spec sheet and saying 115 horsepower, like, I don't know, it's kind of expensive for that, but the overall balance of this package is excellent. And this engine is really fantastic. Very technical roads here. Woo! See, pulling out of the corners, even if I'm in a gear too high, I still have plenty of pull. But if you really want to move, keep it above, you know, keep it above 5,000 RPM. So much fun. I love the Ducati Multistrada. You know, all the Multistradas I've ever tested, they are some of my favorite motorcycles in the world. They are simply amazing to ride. I don't know why you would buy a sport bike. Other than going to track days, I don't know why you would buy a sport bike when something like a Multistrada is available. Oh my gosh, the roads out here in the Spanish countryside north of Valencia are just fantastic. Also, the quick shifter, they call it quick shifter 2.0. It's so good on this bike. Really, really nice quick shifting. I've never used the clutch, except when I'm taking off. That's the only time I use the clutch on this. This Multistrada is so well balanced. I have confidence to ride fast even on unfamiliar roads. I've never been in this country before. I've never been on these roads before. And I still feel the confidence to ride fast. When you ride a Ducati and you spend some time on it, you start to realize why they cost more than other bikes. You get on these, and if you have some good riding training experience and things behind you, You can really move. You really feel one with the bike. Everything works in harmony. Ducati's racing and sport experience really comes through in these Multistradas and just continues to amaze me with how good they are. Really, some of my favorite motorcycles in the world, these Multistradas, whether it's V4, V2, even the older ones. I have to say, I think this V2 might be the one that I would put my own money for, because it has enough power to be fun, but you can use more of the power more of the time than the V4. I mean, I just find this more engaging, actually, because I can use 100% of the power even on technical roads like this in real world conditions. "19-inch front wheel," you know, some people will ask about that. Well, I think they do the 19-inch front wheels on these bikes because it makes the turn-in sharp, it makes the handling a little bit more agile, and it's kind of a nice wheel size. I like it for the real world. A little bit larger diameter, a little bit narrower tire. I suppose if you're racing on a track, you probably want the 17-inch and a fatter tire. But for doing the kind of things we're doing here, and we are not going slow, I'm a huge fan of the 19-inch wheel bikes, whether it's a Multistrada or GS or anything else. People who think they aren't sporty, well, you just haven't ridden these bikes. I have found I kind of like the touring riding mode a bit, just because the way they have the throttle response set up a little bit more progressive. But then I run the dynamic suspension mode, and in these twisty roads I like the dynamic suspension setting. I find that to be firmer, better. And then when we cruise on the motorways, I will go back to the comfort mode and the suspension. Electronic suspension, yeah, it's kind of a luxury, but it's a nice luxury to have. This is so much fun. Wow, these are absolutely beautiful roads, amazing. But in terms of the performance of the bike, I don't know. This is kind of the perfect package. I really do think this is like a perfect package for an all-around motorcycle, for touring, sport touring, everyday riding, having fun on the weekend. It's not an off-road bike. I think you have to just accept that if you want that, you get something else. This is a street bike, but my God, it's a good one. Everything on here has worked really well. My butt doesn't hurt from the seat. The windshield protection is very good, at least on my height. I'm 5'10" or 1.7, 178 centimeters, 32-inch inseam. The leg position is good leg room. I don't know, the bike is incredibly comfortable to be on, riding it all day for many hours, so that's good. I don't know, I just can't understand why people buy like sport bikes and things, because this is so good. And the wide handlebars mean that you can go through tight corners all day, back and forth, and you don't feel tired, because it's so easy to throw the bike, you know, just dance through the corners all day, and you don't get tired from, you know, like you would on a sport bike. So these upright sport tours, you know, that the Multistrada kind of helped define this category a long time ago, they're incredible. Whether you look at this or the BMW XR, a lot of other good bikes. Getting back to the V2 Multistrada, the new Multistrada V2, I would say that this would be the Multistrada that I would buy, because I'm not going to buy a Multistrada for off-road. I just think there's better bikes for that, even though the Rally is pretty good off-road. Actually, we tested that in Colorado, and I'll try to link that video somewhere here. But for all-around road riding, I would take this model, right, that I'm riding. I'm not sure on the electronic suspension. I'd have to think about that, because that's a big price jump. It is nice to have it, because like right now, actually, I want to change back to comfort. And I'll do that right here, because I'm on the motorway. I don't really need the dynamic mode anymore. It is very handy to have. Is it worth $3,500? I don't know about that. But this is, I think, the best balanced of all the Multistradas I've tested. Like it's light. The lightweight is the big thing, right? It's very, very light compared to the V4 Multistradas. Less top heavy. When you have a lighter bike, everything gets better. And that the engine in this is so well balanced to the chassis and the brakes and the handling and suspension. You can use all the power if you're a decent, good rider. I really enjoy this bike. I think it's kind of the perfect package. This is the Multistrada I would buy for myself, and I would love to have one of these in the garage. This would fill a lot of gaps in sort of my bike lineup, and be a great all-around street bike, sport bike, track day, occasional track day bike. And for me, as kind of an intermediate rider, I think like this level of power, this is what I can use. It's not too much, but it's enough. It's enough that it's still enough to be fun. Even for the professional racers among us here, they're still having fun on this with this level of power. It's the top of my head, the bikes in this category. So I'm trying to think. I've ridden most everything in the category. I'm thinking like the BMW F900XR, the Kawasaki Versys 1000, now 1100, Tiger 900. Oh gosh, the Suzuki GX. Suzuki GX would be one. I just tested that. What else in this like $15,000 to $20,000 kind of upright sport bike? I know there's others, but thinking of all of them that I've ridden, and I've owned some of those bikes too. I had a Tracer 9 or the FJ09 for quite a while. This is, and of course now we have the benefit of this is a brand new bike for 2025, so it's got the best design of the chassis and the engine and everything. It's just dialed in, the electronics. As an overall package, putting price out of the equation a little bit, I do think this is by far the best. And this would be what I would buy in this category of motorcycle. I can't think of anything that really comes close to this for me that I would want to put in my own garage. This would be the bike. This takes all the things that I love about the bigger Multistrada and puts it in what I think is a more sensible, more practical, more affordable, lighter weight package, but it still is exhilarating and fun and just amazing to ride in all conditions and in comfort all day long. So I think one of the world's best motorcycles for sure. I would definitely put my name to that, and I don't know, I would love to have one of these in my own garage, because the kind of riding we're doing today is probably my favorite kind of motorcycle riding. So yeah.
All right, here's my summary of the pros and cons as I see it to the new Ducati Multistrada V2. So for me, the pros, pro number one for me, torque at all RPMs and smooth low RPM running. Unlike some of the Ducatis, a lot of the Ducatis in the past with different engines where you have really kind of rough, low RPM running, just roughness from the engine, that's gone. It's not the smoothest engine out there below 3,000 RPM, but at least it's not rough like they used to be. And I just think having that linear power and linear torque from low RPM all the way up to the top end, and it still has that top end rush, I just think they did a great job with this new engine. Next up for me, I think the overall balance between the engine, the chassis, the suspension, the brakes, everything comes together on this bike, and it just feels like the perfect package for all-around street performance riding. Another pro for me is it's relatively lightweight for the category, and lightweight makes the motorcycle better. Next up for me on the pros, good wind protection, good wind coverage, adjustable windshield with one hand, 2 thumbs up for that, Ducati. Also, good thermal management or good heat management. We were riding in temperatures that were pretty cool, around between 10 to 16 degrees Celsius. I'll put the Fahrenheit conversion here. And we didn't notice, none of us noticed any heat at all from the engine. Of course, we didn't get to test the bike in hot weather, so I don't really want to commit to that yet, but it seemed to be a lot better than the Multistrada V4. The V4 Multistradas, if you've watched my reviews on that or other reviews, they run extremely hot. Even in cool weather, you will feel noticeable engine heat. We didn't notice that on the V2. Another good pro for me is that all the riding modes, they're all fully customizable for your traction, your wheelie control, your ABS settings, your throttle sensitivity, your power setting. You can customize all the riding modes how you want. You can also change the riding modes as you're riding. You don't have to stop. and the electronics in the bike remember your settings if you turn the bike on and off. So overall, fantastic job Ducati with the electronics. What are the cons? It was really hard to come up with any real downsides. Now keep in mind this was a one-day test ride. Although we rode aggressively and quickly, during a one-day ride, it's hard to come up with downsides. And frankly, I didn't come up with many, but here's the few that I have from my notes. I think pricing, as usual with Ducati, you have the Ducati tax. It's pretty expensive for what it is. It would be nice also with the S model, since you're paying that pretty big upgrade price, to get maybe heated grips, you know, at least with that. That would be nice, maybe a center stand. The TFT screen also is a little bit on the small side for a bike at such a premium price level, although I understand they have to differentiate and save the bigger TFT for the more expensive models like the V4 Multistrada. Also, another downside that we all found was that the minimum preload feature is not very well implemented. You have to press the button to make it work, and it doesn't drop the rear suspension very much compared to the competition out there. All right, let's talk competition on the Multistrada V2. So there's some new entrants here. Let's talk about, I think there's really like 4. If you look at the price range, the engine size, the weight, the power, there's really 4 like main competitors, I would say. That would be the Triumph Tiger 900 GT Pro, the BMW F900XR with the premium package, the Triumph Tiger Sport 800, which is a brand new entry into the category, and then Yamaha's venerable Tracer 9 GT and GT Plus. In terms of pricing, the Ducati, you get the Ducati tax, it's more expensive by a significant margin than all the other competitors here. And if you look at the pricing, you're getting kind of less features even at that higher price point, or less standard features I should say. In terms of horsepower, all the bikes here have between 106 and 115 or so horsepower. The Yamaha has a tiny bit more at 117. The Triumph 900 is down there at 106. The new Tiger Sport 800 has 113. The F900 from BMW has to make do with 106 horsepower. The weight is the lowest on the Ducati and then on the new Triumph Tiger Sport 800. Panniers are included with the Yamaha and not included on any of the other bikes. And then you have to choose what kind of engine you want. Do you want a parallel twin? That's the BMW. Do you want a triple? That's the Triumph and the Yamaha. Or do you want a 90-degree V-twin on the Ducati? If you ask me, the Ducati has the nicest and most fun, charismatic engine of the bunch, although all the bikes here are very, very good, and I would put Triumph's triple and Yamaha's triple as very close runner-ups. It kind of just depends on what kind of engine you prefer in your motorcycle. You're going to have to go with 2 things when you're looking at the competition. One, the spec sheet only takes you so far. You also have to go with your heart, your gut. What do you feel? What makes you excited? What bike do you turn around and look at when you walk away? For me, no competition out of this list. The only bike on this list that I would buy would be the Multistrada. All right, audience questions. Let me run through the questions I got from Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and thank you for sending these in. If I've answered them throughout the video, then I'm not including them here, so I'm only gonna go through the ones that were not answered probably somewhere else in the video. Differences between this and the older Multistrada 950. So this is an entirely new motorcycle, new chassis, new suspension, new engine, new frame, new features, everything is different, and it's better, just to put it simply. There was a lot of questions about 19-inch front wheel. Why do you have that? Why not a 17-inch front wheel? So there's a bit of a trade-off there. A 19-inch front wheel gives you a larger diameter, which is a little bit better for absorbing bumps. It also gives you a little bit narrower tire, which makes the handling quicker, faster to turn in. The downside is, I suppose, in a racing environment or a track day environment, you might have slightly less grip. So trade-offs. I think for the street, this actually makes more sense than a 17-inch front wheel, just my opinion. Seating comfort, we found it all to be very good. I heard no complaints about the seat, and after riding all day for about 8 hours, none of us really had any issues with that, but of course that's always a personal thing. Was there any vibration in the mirror? Some people mentioned some of the other bikes had that. I did notice above about 130 kilometers an hour, or what's that, above like 70 miles per hour, there was a little bit of buzziness in the mirrors. It wasn't bad, but it is something I noticed. Some people asked about legroom. There was someone who was 6 foot tall, or I don't know what that is in centimeters, like over 180 centimeters, I guess, tall. Is there enough legroom for taller riders? I think that there is. You know, we ran with the standard seat in the high position, so we were at that what, around the 33-inch seat height, 850 millimeters or so. And none of us complained about legroom. I had a lot of legroom. You can also get a taller seat. If you're a taller rider, you might want that for extra legroom. So I think they did a really good job on the rider triangle, making it very roomy. Because some of the competitors in the class I found to be a little bit tight on the legroom. This was one of the better ones. There were some questions, how does this compare to a 1250 GS or a 1300 GS? It's not really in that category. This is like, first of all, this is not really designed to go off-road, and it's a much smaller motor and a different price point, so it's really hard to make that comparison. If you're only riding on the road and you don't need the larger engine for like a lot of high-speed touring and you're not carrying a ton of luggage and passengers, I'd probably go with a Ducati. If you're doing more long-distance touring or riding with a lot of luggage or another person with you, and you want that off-road versatility, or you just want that bigger engine, then you start to look at the things like the GS or the Multistrada V4. Roll-on power in 6th gear, I found it to be very good. The difference on this engine versus some of the other Ducati engines is even at lower RPMs, like below 5,000, you still have a lot of power and torque, and they made a big deal about that in the marketing materials that they've showed us. Really good roll-on power, even in top gear. There were some questions about the valve train, some people mentioning Desmo valves. Well, this bike doesn't have Desmo valves. That's the big thing with this new engine. They've gone away from Desmodronic, uses a normal type of valve system, so it's much less expensive to do the maintenance, and that's a nice thing. Heat management, I think I did cover that. We noticed no engine heat from the bike, but again, the weather was pretty cool, so that's a disclaimer there. Top heaviness, did it feel top heavy? No, I didn't notice that at all. I hope they put this motor in the Desert X. 2 thumbs up, I agree with you. Let's go for the Desert X with this new motor. I think that's going to be fantastic. Does it sound good? Yes, absolutely. For a stock bike with a stock exhaust, it sounded really, really good, and I hope that came through in the video. How is the weight reduction calculated? So there was a little confusion on this from some people because the materials that Ducati puts out can be a little bit inconsistent. So I think on the old V2 Multistrada, they had a weight that was like dry weight without any fluids or battery. And then this one, they showed the weight with the fluids and the battery, but without fuel. So it wasn't apples to apples, but there is an 18 kilogram or 40 pound weight reduction for sure between this bike and the outgoing Multistrada V2. I did confirm that. Would you buy this or a Desert X? If I was going to do off-roading, Desert X for sure. If I'm going to do road riding, the Multistrada for sure. It has a big advantage. So it just depends on what kind of riding you're doing. All right, final thoughts on Ducati's new, for 2025, Multistrada V2. If you can't tell already by now, I think this is my favorite Multistrada that I've ever tested. And I've ridden most of them over the years. The reason that I like the V2 the best is I just think it's the perfect amount of power. It's lighter weight, it's practical, it's more affordable. It's enough motorcycle for probably 99% of riders in terms of their riding ability. And it just makes so much sense. I don't look at the Multistrada as an off-road bike, even in the rally versions and those ones that they've had, and I've tested those. So for me, a Multistrada is a street bike, and this new V2 Multistrada does absolutely everything I would ever want out of a street, sport-oriented, road-going motorcycle. You could do occasional track days, you could go touring and sport touring, you could hit the canyons on the weekend, you can commute. It's comfortable, it's fun, it's thrilling. All the components work together in harmony. The only potential downside is going to be, can you afford it? Right? It's fairly expensive for what it is compared to the competition. However, totally subjective and just me speaking personally, I would gladly pay that premium because when I ride this, I get more enjoyment, more fun, and it just feels like a nicer motorcycle to me than all the competitors that I've ridden out there. So this would be the bike that I would put in my garage in this category, even though it has a higher price tag. Remember, sometimes motorcycling is emotional and about a feeling you get and not just a spec sheet or a price tag on paper. So I think Ducati did an amazing job with this new Multistrada. If you have questions or comments, put that down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Big thanks to Ducati for inviting me out to Spain to test this new bike. I really appreciate that. And thanks again also to Law Tigers for sponsoring today's video. Thanks so much for watching. Ride safe, and I'll see you out there.